That was the issue with the team. They had all these guys on the wing. They had guys, hey, here you go. We had this video 7 years ago. Who did the Canadians draft the 2018's NHL draft? Zadina Kotkaniemi or Hughes in his first season. 34 points in 79 games played for the Montreal Canadiens. He had outscored Alexander Barkov as an 18-year-old in the NHL. And Kotkaniemi was the very first athlete born in the 2000s to play. Kotkaniemi, with 8 points in 19 playoff games, needed a contract in that 2021 offseason. And the Carolina Hurricanes, still upset over Montreal's offer sheeting of Sebastian Aho earlier in the 2020s, decided to take their swing and decided to give this guy a one-year deal worth $6 million a year. It was a really beefy contract, and obviously it was one of these things that Montreal did not want to match it. They didn't want to pay the guy that much. This holiday season, it was fun life with the unstoppable references of the Packers World Series. Okay, year 29 points, and then he had signed the extension that he got, which looked really fine right away, honestly. $4.82 million a year for a guy who at the time was 22 years old. Then he went out there and posted up 43 points in 82 games. That's not bad. But over the next few years, things just didn't really hold themselves up consistency-wise. He started producing less. He started being used less. He started getting tossed down the lineup. He was a fourth-line guy. He's a healthy stretch guy. And now, for a player that at one point people were comparing to Alexander Barkov, seeing him get this treatment in Carolina and seeing them waste all this money on a guy that isn't even playing half the time, it's quite the tragedy for the guy that stood a third overall spot in the NHL draft. We've mentioned this in multiple videos over the years, but it's kind of funny how Montreal always finds themselves a relationship with these third overall guys. Third overall, second overall dudes from Patrick Lyon to Pierre Dubois to Jesperi Kotkaniemi to Jonathan Drouin and all these other names that toss themselves into the mix. And then, of course, I guess you could say your ass off cost in the first overall pick a few years later. But with all that said, having Jesperi Kotkaniemi as a healthy scratch while the Montreal Canadiens were destroying Carolina, obviously there's a big level of poetic justice there. And I think just acknowledging the level of future that we are seeing with this Canadiens roster, Oliver Kapanen scored, Slafkovsky, Demidov, Caulfield and 2 points each, Nick Suzuki continued his point streak. It's a really nice time to acknowledge the future as well as what was the past for the Montreal Canadiens. Let's just go out there and read some of the comments on this thread on Reddit, just to give us a little bit of a kick. Undisputed offer sheet champions. Yeah, it's pretty cringe. That was their entire thing on social media. Incredibly cringe. I'll never forget the smugness and arrogance from Carolina. Literally pulled the pin of the grenade. They attempted to throw it at us, laughed, and had it blow up in their faces. Hilarious. And they also doubled down by signing Kotkaniemi long-term, LMAO. Just to clarify, he has been a healthy scratch since the Olympics. If I recall correctly, he was the only Finnish NHLer who didn't make their Olympic team. Is that true? Don't get me wrong. What? Oh my gosh, he is the only guy who didn't make the team? That's crazy. To make it still more, there was a non-NHLer on that team. Different position, but a skater nevertheless. So, yeah, no. Okay, Ratu, him and Laine. Laine was chosen, but he's injured. Kotkaniemi was just omitted completely. Okay, Ratu didn't make the team, though. Although, the fact that he was in the AHL for a good shot, I guess you can say that he wasn't an NHLer purely. I don't know. Overall, though, the Kotkaniemi situation definitely is not aging well. Okay, 19 shots. Freddie Anderson, what are you doing, buddy? There could have been a lot of extra money available for Carolina had they just not made that stupid contract offer to Jesperi Kotkaniemi, just trying to get back at Montreal for the Aho thing. But with all that said, the tragedy of Kotkaniemi is going to continue for many years to come as the guy continues his NHL career. Hopefully he gets to a point where he can justify the league. As the wonderful employment advocate of certain times, it's outlawed. The government of Canada is here now with training opportunities, financial support to prevent layoffs, and job opportunities. Using Canada.ca/tariff support. We have some crazy new statistics for you about players playing on the Vancouver Canucks and the Montreal Canadiens that we just have to dive into. Because these numbers, they kind of tell a different story compared to what we've been seeing so far. Obviously, y'all are familiar with the fact that I am a Vancouver Canucks and Montreal Canadiens fan. They're my top two favorite teams, and some might think that's weird. Yeah, I know, I've been getting comments about it literally since 2018. But in today's commentary, I want to talk about Elias Pettersson of the Vancouver Canucks, as well as Ivan Demidov on the Montreal Canadiens. There are games to be held later today, so obviously their numbers might change up after this video is public, but for what it's worth, these two guys have displayed some pretty interesting statistics that I thought were video worthy, hence why we are making this video here today. Let's go out there and talk about Ivan Demidov, who, at 20 years old, playing for the Montreal Canadiens, is already up there at 54 points in 70 games played. That's a really good number. And he is on pace for 64 points over 82. He currently has 15 goals and 39 assists. And just to put into perspective how good this overall metric is, let's go back to the season where the Montreal Canadiens made it to the Stanley Cup Finals, 2020-2021. Okay, wait, never mind. That was a bad year because it was the shortened COVID season. Let's go to the season before that. So the top point scorer in the Canadiens was Tomas Tatar in 2019-20 with 61 points in 68 games. Meanwhile, Philippe Deneau had 47 points. Max Domi had 44. Gallagher had 43. This season, Ivan Demidov has 54 in 70 games played. This guy would have been one of the top point producers in Montreal 6 years ago had he been on the team. And Demidov is a rookie. That's crazy. Now, I understand wholeheartedly that the NHL is a lot more friendly for points these days, especially compared to 5 years ago. A lot more goals are being scored. Goaltender numbers are going down. That's all correlated here. But for Ivan Demidov, we did have some really interesting records being tied because of his 54th point of the season scored against the Carolina Hurricanes on Tuesday. Take a look at this. Ivan Demidov has tied Kirk Muller and Barney Jeffrey on rookie season point totals. And if you go over to the NHL record book, you can find points scored by rookie players in their rookie seasons. Ivan Demidov is there at 193rd with his 54 points. Now, it's a pretty big tie for guys in NHL lore who have scored 54 points as a rookie, but it's good enough for Demidov to be in the 193rd spot. Other players who scored 54 points in their first NHL seasons include Pat LaFontaine, John Tavares, and Jonathan Toews. Now, there is a little bit of a caveat there. John Tavares scored his 54 points in 82 games. Jonathan Toews did it in only 64 games. So, there is a discrepancy. Toews was a crazy good player, and he had scored a lot of points at 18 years old, despite the fact that he played way fewer games. But for Ivan Demidov, just when it comes to the raw, hard point numbers, he is right there. Bernie Boom, by the way, he is 183rd on this list. He also had 54 points in his rookie season in 67 games. So, while it's true, Demidov is not necessarily on pace to tying up the guy who invented the slap shot, essentially, there are still a number of really notable names that had the same level of production when Demidov was a rookie. That's a pretty good sign, I would say. A lot of people are going out there and thinking about Demidov as a guy that could potentially overtake the most important player on the team mantle from Nick Suzuki one day. Is it guaranteed? Probably not, but is it possible? Absolutely. With that said, let's go out there and talk about another absolute fact in the NHL, because in this Minnesota and the Vancouver Canucks, we now have a pretty notable set of numbers for this guy and his career. With Pettersson scoring 2 assists against the Anaheim Ducks 2 nights ago, he's up at 43 points in 62 games on the year. Not great, considering his $11.6 million cap hit, and considering the fact that he had 102 points 2 seasons ago. But this guy is now out there with a total of 500 points in 533 NHL games. It took him 8 seasons to get to 500 total points. It's actually like flat, too. Pettersson has a really nice 200 goals and 300 assists. It's a beautiful stat line. And with that, we have some Vancouver Canucks-related Pettersson numbers to dive into as well. 6 games to go from 200 to 300, and then 84 games to go from 300 to 400. Then from 400 to 500, it took him 143 games. Pettersson started out his career hot. He then had some injury troubles early on in the COVID bubble year, and that was a pretty difficult time. He also had the conflicts with Miller that occurred recently, but when Pettersson was absolutely on his game, he wasn't affected by his knee, he wasn't affected by interpersonal drama. The guy was a top elite player in the NHL, getting 200 points over the span of 160 games is absurd. These are only weeks that it's taking, so I think they're taking purposes. If you think I'm playing a video game to push some kind of wicked left or even right central up down man, kind of propaganda, then I'm giving you the value of my life. To those in the not my job to keep an eye on these baby kids. Thank you for watching, and you know what time it is. Well, gentlemen, once again, we're back where it all started. Every watch, please. Oh, get out! I love you. Yes, but let's get that down.